What's up, guys? We are here on the first episode of Lessons and Blessings. And today is very special to me, and I'll get into that. But kind of want to talk about the why behind this show. I feel like this show was born from real life experiences, setbacks, moments that most people never see because everybody sees the highlight reel on social media. We see the accomplishments, we see the good things that people want to do. And we're going to celebrate that too with people that we bring on the show. But I feel like the world, again, they only see the blessings, but they don't really see the lessons that made it possible. So I want to change that. And we're going to change that here. We're going to kind of get into some things. But for the first episode of this, as I mentioned earlier, it's special for me because I am bringing on my dad, my father, my pops, to talk about his story. And this is like a Father's Day, special moment, tribute. And, someone who has taught me, how to be a man, how to be a leader, walking in faith, um, and ultimately building a legacy. And so I want to introduce Corey Artiste first, entrepreneur, my father, brother, a son, a businessman, a man who really cares about his community, is doing impactful things right now into the community, and just big on bringing other people up and helping people with resources and making sure that that foundation is set. So, round of applause. Oh yeah, we gotta fix that.
Yeah.
I don't know what the hell. How you have it? Ah, okay, okay, good job. So click on it, click Lomer, yeah, and then just scroll like with your fingers, not like to the right, like but you gotta do it with multiple fingers.
How often does that happen? Okay. Yeah.
So first of all, thank you for taking the time out to come on the show, be here today.
Thank you for having me.
Um, this is new for me because we really I don't think we've ever had like a sit down moment on camera and talking, So this is different,
Yeah.
but I'm excited about it. I'm looking forward to the conversation.
Me as well.
Yeah, so I kind of want to dive into it. Kind of tell us about your upbringing and growing up.
Wow. So my upbringing. So I did grow up initially in I guess you can say two-parent home. My mother, father, and my two younger brothers. We grew up. I guess you can say middle class. We lived in the suburbs early on in my life. As a young kid at probably age 6 or 7 years of age. Spent a lot of time with my grandmother. Spent a lot of time down in the country with my great grandparents. Getting those good country values.
Mm.
Had a lot of love from just about everyone in the family, from aunts, uncles, and all that. And then there were some times where, like in many households, where mom and dad doesn't always get along. So there was some several degrees of separation, and I mean true separation. We would leave and go to Big Mama's house for a little bit, and then we'd come back home, and then we would leave and come back home. So that happened pretty much most of my kind of childhood until my mom and dad finally divorced around the middle school time frame.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I feel like generations now, like, generations is different from how you grew up versus to how I grew up.
Right.
And it's always just like, you know, my perspective on things is I feel like, especially if you're younger, I feel in a way you have it a little bit more better than the older generation. Because I feel like over time, not to say that like millennials or Gen Z, we don't go through things.
Right.
We have obstacles, we have lessons, but a lot of your challenges was a little differently than the challenges that we may have. And I'm sure we had some similar challenges too, but even just going into like, Mimi, which is his mom, my grandmother, her challenges was completely different than yours and
Right.
versus mine.
Right.
And so what was the biggest challenge you faced in life and how did you overcome it?
The biggest challenge in life as well, you mean as a kid or a young adult?
We could say a young adult.
Okay, so I guess I would say my biggest challenge, as you know, was had an addiction, and that addiction was alcohol. I fell and butt my head a few times, as you know. But one day I woke up and said, I'm done. This is it. I want to be able to spend time with my kids and my kids' and kids'. And I knew that, that issue wasn't something that God wanted me to be going through.
Mm-hmm.
So I just turned it all over to God, prayed about it. And, I stayed in the church for many years, as you know, and still in the church. But even dealing with the alcohol, as you know the story, I got shot at the age of 19, and I was in surgery. And during surgery, I transitioned 2 times. And so, if God brought me through that, I knew for sure that He wouldn't want me to be an alcoholic. And so, I just made up my mind one day, and it'll be 11 years this coming November that I have not had any alcohol.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
Congratulations. I know that's definitely a thing of just addictions in general, not even just alcohol, but I feel like in life we all may experience different addictions. For a kid it can be, being addicted to a game or being addicted to success, being
Right.
addicted to money. There's so many different forms of addictions. And so for you also know as well, like I've been, for me it's been 6 months since I haven't taken a drink of alcohol.
Right.
And I wouldn't say that I was like addicted per se, but I think for me it was about creating good habits.
Mhm.
And I feel like in the next chapter in my life where God was taking me, He wanted me to, one, focus. And what I realized focus means is not necessarily doing more of what you're supposed to be doing, but it's more so doing less of things that don't serve where you're going.
Yeah, that's good.
And so in my life, just being in the entertainment space, doing events for 14 years now, owning a lounge at a point in time, alcohol just always been around. And so I felt like for me, I was put into, I had to like last year for me was the word of just intention and being more intentional. And, somebody asked me like, you're not already intentional? I'm like, well, it's levels to intention, right?
Right.
It's not just you being intentional and all of a sudden you intentional in everything. It's different levels to it. And that brought me an understanding, okay, well, I want to be intentional in my relationships, in my business, where I spend my time at, what I'm doing, and all these different things. And then this year was like focus. And so when I looked at certain things, which alcohol wasn't the only thing that I just cut back on, but that was something that I realized, okay, like if I have a business meeting or something like that, we're going to lunch. Typically, we probably going to have a drink,
Right.
right?
Right.
That drink is going to lead into, let's say it's a good meeting. We vibing, whatever. Now we may go into a happy hour. Now we drinking even more, and then all of a sudden we end up at the club that night. And
Right.
can we have said we had self-discipline and just been like, okay, well, no, we're just not gonna go those things. But to me, I realized alcohol was one of those things that I needed to do less of because I seen it allow me to spend my time in situations that didn't serve me best.
Absolutely.
You know?
Right.
And so again, doing too much of anything is a problem. Like having too much thought process and making money, like that's not healthy.
Right. Right.
So I'm glad that you one expressed that. Because I think also in society we don't have a vulnerable moment of things that we really go through because I feel like we try to always seem so perfect to the eye. And this show is about really getting real. Like I feel like you're a successful person and success means differently to everybody. But like again, we're not perfect.
Nope.
Nobody's perfect. I don't care how rich you are. I don't care how much fame you got.
Right.
Like everybody has obstacles and lessons that they go through. So I want to talk about, kind of get into fatherhood. Like what's some of your biggest lessons that even your dad taught you?
Wow. So, work hard. Nothing's free in life. So even though there was differences at the house with my mom and dad, he always worked. He took care of home. He paid the bills. He made sure we had, what we needed. As growing up as boys to young men, and also a big thing was always be truthful, regardless if it's going to hurt the person or not. Just be truthful about it. So have I always lived, and said I was always truthful about things? No, but I look back on this thing that he, talked about, about being truthful. And I see that, over time I have hurt people for not being truthful, and I have had people to say, well, if you just told me the truth, we could have worked beyond that.
Right.
But I had to find out this way or that way. So one, working hard, which I work hard.
Definitely work hard.
I am a successful businessman. A life insurance broker, but I've also worked in the human resources field for over 30 years. And during COVID time, I actually worked, at one point I was working 4 full-time jobs during COVID. I want to make sure that my family is taken care of and they're set up, from generations when I'm gone.
Yeah.
So I work hard. I'm not working 4 full-time jobs now. I'm still working one. Very successful at that. But yeah, work hard and always tell the truth.
Yeah, the truth piece, man. I think that's like, I think as men, sometimes it's hard for us to be like genuinely truthful in all areas.
Right.
And when I say in all areas, I'm talking about the times when you may hurt somebody's feelings.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And you just don't want to do it, so you don't be truthful.
Right.
And not to just, only put, I guess, throw men under the table, because I mean everybody has struggles with truth, but I just feel like more men, we may struggle with that a little bit more. And I think that comes down into just like communication in us not truly knowing how to communicate and also be vulnerable as well.
That's it.
And now I'm like even telling my friends and having these conversations specifically with men about us just like being more vulnerable with each other. Like one of my homies the other day, we were talking that I grew up with, and he was just telling me about how his sister, long story short, his sister tried to commit suicide. She jumped off of a building,
Ooh.
but she survived. And so we was talking about that because she is doing better now, and she just came back home recently to visit. And this happened a couple years ago, but that day, which was a couple of days ago, he said that he was in a depression because of that. And I had no idea, that he was in a depression because of that. And he started just express to me just the different stuff that he was going through,
Right.
and how it was affecting him in his life and his work life and all these type of things. And that led into us talking about like, one, I told him I appreciate him for even expressing that.
Right.
Because I've been through a depression before, not necessarily wanting to take my life, but when I was like heavy in a nightlife space and I had 4 or 5 club nights promoting every week, it was just draining on me. I realized it was low vibrational energy, and God was just showing me like, I want you to bring people together, but it's not in the club every week.
Right.
You know?
Right.
And so I remember expressing that to him and just talking to a few other people on how it started to make me feel better about what I was going through, and just to let it out and not keep it all in. And so I brought up, he was like, that he wished more of his friends would check on him, because he felt like he's a person that checks on other people, which he is. And I was like, you know what? I feel like also as men, we have this thing of like, I don't want to say we want to be hard per se, but it's like, you grow up, something happened, it's like, be tough,
Yeah.
you got to be tough. And I don't feel like you did that as much to me. Like, I don't remember that being a thing of like, stop, like, like, of course, like in certain areas, like me playing sports and stuff like that or whatever, but I didn't feel like a pressure of like you being like, you got to be a man, like, that type of thing.
Yeah.
No,
and that happens a lot where men, like I'm 54 years old, and I know people my age and maybe 10 years younger than me, and they just think they always got to be hard. They're not open to communication because it's like they were taught they would be a wimp or whatever the terminology they dad use, or growing up in the hood, they think they got to be this big bad person. And that's not always the case. And I'm glad you're talking about that, depression and opening up. As men, we have to find another man that we can truly trust. And a lot of men have trust issues. I had an old pastor, a pastor of mine who I truly dear, love, and respect. He always talked about having trust issues.
Yeah.
And to this day, he's probably 20 years older than me, a little bit older. He still has trust issues. I believe he does. It's where he grew up. Grew up as being a hardcore person and having different people around him. And it's you just got to find the person you can truly trust. I have a good friend of mine now. He's going through depression, and I think he still might deal with a little bit of it. And we talk just about every day. I'm checking on him. He's checking on me. And I'm glad you said that your friend wish some people would check on him. A lot of people who people think that, they got it going on, this, that, and whatever. They're the ones you really need to trust, need to check on, because they're like ministers. They're ministering to so many other people, and they're pulling everyone else's issues in, and they're dealing with it and don't know how to get rid of it.
And nobody's reaching out to them.
Right. Yep. Because even I told you, I'm in the church, and I used to visit with the pastor on a weekly basis some years ago. He was like, Brother Corey, he's like, man, you come to my counseling sessions, and I got other people coming to counseling sessions. He said, man, I'm up at 1, 2 o'clock at night, 3 o'clock in the morning, praying and trying to release. He said, because I need counseling myself. I need someone to talk to me. I need to be able to release to people. instead of people always just throwing up on me.
Yeah. In the word it says that, can't remember the exact scripture, but it says, all men need counsel.
Yes.
We all need support. We all need guidance. Like no matter what stage or phase that you're at, you need that guidance and support. And to even kind of dive in deeper into that as well, like, I was telling him, my friend, I said, I feel like we as men, especially younger men, we may not check on each other or feel like we need to do that as much, because also that stigma of like, well, I'm a man and I'm going through stuff, and I gotta get through it. You a man, you going through stuff, you gotta get through it,
Right.
I want to reprogram that. Like, we gotta dismantle habits that aren't good for us and good for generations to come in our
Right.
family. And the other piece I brought up, this is something funny. I don't know if you've seen this on social media, but have you seen the guys, like the guys, they'll call their friend and they'll say good night?
I was just thinking about that now when the guy was like, yeah, I'll just call and say good night. And the mama turned around like, you calling him good night? Yeah, I was just thinking about that. That was funny.
And yeah, so like if y'all ain't seen it on social media, I'm pretty sure y'all have already. The guys that call their friends and they'll say good night.
Yeah.
And then most of the time, everybody on the phone like, "What you mean, good night?"
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I brought it up to my homie. He's like, like I'm like, but we can't even tell each other good night without being like, man, you soft. Like, what's going on?
Or even using the word "I love you." I got a good friend of mine, and
That too.
I know he won't mind me saying his name is Wayne, and Wayne and I have been friends since I was in the 8th, 9th grade, so a long time. And so every now and then he calls to check up on me because I'm real busy doing this and that. He's like, man, I'll just call and say I love you, bro. He said it don't take much to call someone and just say I love you. I'm just checking on you, man. You're on my mind. And so he does that pretty regular. And do I reciprocate? No, not all the time. I need to get better with that. But yeah, just I love you. It's not, it's not like you, but I love you, brother.
Yeah.
And so we need to, as men, we need to be able to tell another man I love you without people thinking something's wrong with that.
Yeah.
We need to let people know we truly care about them as brothers, even as, his sons, So, I got another son, his name's Jaden. He's 16, coming up in a couple of weeks. And
Shout out to Jaden.
He lives out in Lubbock, so I don't get to see him as much. And there are times where he doesn't think I love him, but I do, and because I spend more time with my other kids than him. But I have to let him know from time to time, Jaden, I love you. I send him a text message. I love you. What are you doing? So yeah.
Yeah. As men in general, I challenge our men out there, man, myself included. Like, let's get better at let's create a new stigma and being okay with being more vulnerable and how we feel and communication. I think communication just around general, not even just with men, but I was specific saying society, we have to get better at, because conflict, we look at any relationships, parent to son, daughter, or brother, sister, or friend, or intimate relationships, there's always going to be a conflict at some point in time.
Right.
Like, there's like, it's going to happen.
Yep.
So typically though, when conflict happens, most people separate and they don't get past it.
Right.
And the core of that is because of the communication.
Right.
And most of the times when there's like a disagreement or argument, people don't actually listen to the other person and they just want to respond. But also, there's a whole science behind this, in like even just how you approach the argument. It's like, I had a friend that texted me and I didn't respond for like 7 hours. And the person responded to me and was like, TF, like,
Right.
the fuck?
Yeah.
And mind you, they had said something prior to that that was like, I guess, meaningful for them. But I was also I was doing some things at the time. I was out of town. I was at a friend's event. And we ended up talking about the situation. And I was like, I don't mind you feeling away, but don't communicate to me in that manner. Like,
Right.
there's a different way to address a problem than how you did it. And ultimately, they end up taking accountability. Like, you're right. You know, like, I'm not disregarding how you feel because that's your feelings. But just because you feel a way of being mad at somebody or anything like that doesn't warrant you to go at them in an aggressive manner.
Right.
You know? So that just falls back into effective communication.
Absolutely. And I would say when there are disagreements, if there's heated conversations, people just need to go to their corners until they calm down. But yeah, communication. Me growing up, the old saying was communication rules the nation. So if you can communicate with someone, especially man and woman, man communicating to a woman, then you've won. And don't be afraid to go to counseling. I mean, people who have jobs, you got that EAP line, and you're a man and you need some help. You can't talk to your wife or talk to a friend. You use that EAP line to call and talk to somebody, because there are people out there that can help you. I have noticed a rise of African American males committing suicide. It's like on an all-time high, because I guess they feel like they're in it by themselves and they have no one to talk to. Yeah. And if you're in the Dallas area, I mean, I don't attend this particular church, but I mean, Dr. Tony Evans over there, they have counselors set up that can actually see you for free. They do some things.
What church is that?
Oak Cliff Bible Fellowship.
Oak Cliff Bible Fellowship.
Dr.
Okay.
Tony Evans, they have counselors there, and they will talk to you for free.
Okay. Get counseling, man. Therapy. That's encouraged that as well. So kind of want to dive into about like building and protecting legacy. I remember was at Big Mama's house, which is my great grandmother, by the way. And came into the house. I may have been like 10, 11, 12 or something like that. And you came in the house and you had these sheets of paper and started reading it off for me. And I seen like $1 million on there at the top. And you was like, son, if anything would have ever happened to me, you're going to get $1 million from this policy. And that was my first time ever knowing that stuff like that even existed. And so I always have remembered that, and even to this day, and carry on and stuff like that now. So can you tell the people a little bit about yourself and what you're doing now, like in starting in a life and health insurance company, and kind of what inspired that?
Absolutely. So what Corey is talking about, or what y'all may know him as, Flex. Yeah, that was many years ago when I first. But when Corey's mother and I were married, we went one day to get a loan from Fidelity Investments, and they asked me, did I have a life insurance policy? I was like, yeah, I got a life insurance policy. And so they asked me what type of policy was, and I was like, yeah, it's a policy I got at work. They were like, well, no, sir, that's not the policy I'm talking about. So I learned early on in my early 20s, maybe 23, 24 years old, about the importance of having life insurance. I do remember my grandmother and my mom. My mom's had the same insurance policy on me since 1978. And my mom always talked about the importance of life insurance. And if people that are my age, 54, or even a little bit younger, their grandmothers, most times grandmothers always make sure they had insurance policies on people, because they want to make sure, one, that the families are covered should something happen, that you're properly buried and doesn't leave a burden on anyone. And so at that time, I started diving into life insurance. And I remember meeting with a guy from Charles Schwab when I was living in San Antonio, Texas at the time on assignment. And I met with the guy, put the policy in place, and I did come home and say, hey, I want to make sure. And then I remember my dad also told me, my brothers, hey, I have X amount of policies. This one's for you, this one's for you, this one's for you. So at today at my age, I'm a life insurance broker, and I kind of have that set up now where I have enough policies where I'm overinsured to make sure that each one of my kids are taken care of. And it's just truly important to have life insurance. The Bible talks about leaving a legacy in Proverbs, leaving a legacy for your kids and their kids. So it's not all about the money, anything. It's also, spiritual and, and just your life lessons. But if I can leave something financial and tangible to my kids and my grandkids and kids to come, I know they'll be set up or for a period of time, and they could. And also, while I am have these policies, then work with each one of them individually to say, okay, when it happens, because you're gonna die. When it happens, just don't go crazy. Do something with it that it can last a long time. And so that's something I've set up with on the life insurance side, but I also have a family trust. And so I make sure that this money is going to go into a trust. It's not just going to go to them individually, but there are individual policies set up for them. But the money will go into a trust, have the trust set up that says, okay, this is what you need to do, A, B, C, and these are the wishes that I have for my kids and grandkids and whatever to come. So I just truly believe that, there have been a lot of misinformation in the Black and brown communities, a lot of miscommunication, a lot of agents taking advantage of people that look like you and I in the Black and brown communities because they're just concerned about getting wealthy. They're not concerned about you leaving a legacy for your kids. There was years ago, 2016, 2017, I think, whenever Lyft or Uber came out, I was actually doing Lyft and Uber during that time. Again, I'm a hard worker. And I picked a guy up in Highland Park, and I was dressed like I am now because I had just got off work. And he was on the phone talking the entire time. We were driving. He said, let me ask you, what else do you do? And I was like, well, I'm HR, but I also sell life insurance. And he laughed. He said, every house on this street here, they're insurance babies. Meaning, he said, I went to school with 5 of these guys. Their family, their fathers and mothers are going on and left them millions of dollars in insurance. And they're still living in the same home, or they rebuilt the home. He says, as a matter of fact, you're taking me to a business that I run that my father left me. It's a multi-$100+ million insurance business. And we had conversations about it. He said, yeah, a lot of people in minority communities, they don't know about what life insurance can truly do for you.
Right.
It's not about when you just die. I mean, there are policies that I write that you can pay for your kids, your grandkids' college tuition. There are policies you can borrow from while you're alive to do whatever you need to do, tax-free. You can set yourself up to have a tax-free income for life insurance. So I've learned all this stuff, and I'm still learning. And I try and my goal is to go in the community and teach that to people in the community. If you buy from me or not, at least I've done what I'm supposed to do. I'm serving people in my community.
Right. Yeah, that's very powerful. I think as well, like, when you started to pour a lot of this information into me and educate me into this and give me the knowledge, it was to the point where I started to do the same thing and like share that other information and knowledge to other people as well. So it got to the point where it's like, you know what? I need to go ahead and just get my license.
Yeah.
And finally got my license. I am licensed.
Yeah, after talking to him forever, he's finally licensed.
For years, talking to me, trying to get me licensed. But, also you never really pressured me. Like you definitely followed up and told me, like, you put it in, but you never really pressured me. And I've seen you as well just being moments of you just really genuinely, like you said, if somebody doesn't even get with you and you write the policy for them, like you just want to genuinely educate people,
right?
And give that knowledge and information, because we only know what we know, and what we don't know, we don't know. And sometimes you can learn from certain people that don't have your best interests
Right.
at mind.
Right.
That's why I tell everybody, pray for discernment.
Yes.
Ask God to show you, what you should be doing. Even with, I bring on like clients, or they're like, okay, well, yeah, let me think about it. I tell them pray on it, because not only do I want um you to get that confirmation or whatever it may be, but I also want to make sure we're aligned.
Right. Right.
Like,
Right.
is this something that we should be going into together, or you becoming my client, or whatever that
True.
may look like?
True.
It's not just one way. So, definitely pray for discernment. Pray that you attract people that are positive in your life and can make impact into your life, because there are some people that be having this guard up. See, me, I'm a little different. Like, I can't really fake it, can't really like,
Yeah.
like put on this whole fake facade or whatever.
Right.
But there is some really good actors out there, so
Yeah,
gotta be
I'm glad you
careful.
said about bringing clients on, because you don't want to, one, if they don't have the same energy or same well same yoke you have, you don't want to be dealing with those types of folks. So just like in the insurance business, I do recruit agents across the country, and in globally, actually, in Canada, and soon Philippines. But when I'm looking at bringing somebody to add to my team, I want to make sure that it's the right fit. Yeah, I can recruit you and whatever, you can make me a ton of money, but is it, the old saying, all money is not good money, because you don't want to bring the bad energy into your organization, your group,
Yep.
because that could cause all types of other issues. So yeah, I'm glad you brought that up.
Could you tell us a little bit more about like your company, like the value in FinFit Life, and just tell us some information about your company.
Well, I am, you know, again, Corey Artist. I'm one of the founding directors, equity owners of FinFit Life.
Hmm.
FinFit Life was a organization that was created because of a vision that one of the financial geniuses in the world came up with. So FinFit Life actually stands for financial fitness and physical fitness. As you know, in the Black and brown communities, our health a lot of times isn't as great as people in other communities. And so the CEO and founder of FinFit Life has worked with a company many of you know, John Hancock, and also another company called Vitality out of South Africa. And so John Hancock Vitality formed a partnership. And what this partnership will do for an individual like myself, or an individual that has say, a particular type of life insurance policy, it will reward an individual for being healthy, meaning simple things like going to the doctor, eating healthy, meditating, just different things. There's this amazing program that we have in place that can actually pay you for or reward you for being healthy. Meaning, what happens is at the end of the year, you get a portion of your premium that you've paid into your policy all year put into your investment tool that comes with your life insurance policy. And this particular life insurance policy I'm talking about is called an indexing universal life policy, or an IUL. I know what happened during COVID time. A lot of people started hearing about infinite banking, become your own bank, things of that nature. So we help people actually become their own banks. Now, there are a lot of people out there that talk about it, but they don't know how to properly structure someone to actually, for it to really benefit them. So Benefit was really created to help individuals in less fortunate communities really understand how to take a dollar and make that dollar turn it into $3. And so our principles that we use in FinFit Life, they typically are used with the ultra wealthy. People think they have to have all this money to really for them to have let's say a financial plan or something set up. So we teach the same principles that are taught to people like the Mark Cubans of the world or Jeff Bezos of the world, and we take those principles into the middle class, middle America, and help them get to a certain situation they want. So we work with individuals. We love working with young individuals as well, teaching you early on how to set that up where you don't have to wait till you're my age and then try and figure it out, because it's a lot cheaper if you're younger. One other thing that I really like about what we do at FinFit Life is we are offering equity. So as you build your company, you build your life insurance business, the more you build in FinFit Life, then you get equity in FinFit Life.
Yeah.
So people don't, you may not know, some people, I had a lady ask me a couple weeks ago, what does that mean? That means is you're in at the basic ground floor level. And one day the company will sell, like, Amazon has done, and Apple and all these companies that were started. So I am actually a 10% equity stock owner in FinFit Life. We are still offering opportunities for people to get in as equity owners, but at a lower level, it's at 5%. The last company that we sold for $14.4 billion, $14 billion last May.
Billion.
Not an M. There are other companies out there that are similar to us. We call them IMOs that have sold, but they've sold for hundreds of millions. We sold our last firm for $14 billion. FinFit itself will sell in the next 3 to 5 years. And so I really like about this is I can go in and help people, especially in my communities, people that look like you and I. I help everyone, but I really want the opportunity to sit down with someone and show them how they can become wealthy. And it's not overnight. It's not an overnight sensation, but how to help you build a business, build a legacy, and have equity in a firm. So when it sells, you're instant millionaire. That's the overnight part, but there is work you have to put in. You have to be, coachable. But I truly have enjoyed myself being a part of FinFit Life. I joined in September of 2020. I've been a part of other firms, but this is a true firm that what they talk about, they're about, and they truly want to help you be successful. So I just, if anyone's interested in just finding out more about it, please feel free to reach out to myself, reach out to my son. He is one of my agents now. We're building his process of building his legacy, building his ownership in the company. So I'm super excited to be working alongside him. Like he said early on, I didn't pressure him because I knew at some point he's going to come around. He's working some other things out. And that's how I am too in business. When I'm talking to somebody about life insurance, I'll talk to you about it today, but I'm not going to press you and say, call you every day and say, hey, when are you going to get this policy? I've done my job. I've done my due diligence in providing education. So it's up to you to make the decision.
Absolutely. And I want to talk about the equity piece too. It's like, I think a lot of times in there's people who are watching this that are entrepreneurs or working a 9 to 5 that wants to become an entrepreneur, but they may not want to actually like fully commit to full entrepreneurship.
Got it.
Like full time, because maybe people like that security. They like that aspect of having some type of knowing that, hey, I'm gonna get this check every 2 weeks or every month,
Right.
and things of that nature. And now my whole perspective on being a business owner, entrepreneur has super evolved now, because a lot of times people feel like they got to create the idea. They got to start it. They got to be the main operator to own a business or to have a business. And that's not the case. You can literally help a company build, get equity, and when that company sells, hopefully for some nice money, you make a lot of money in that business, and now you had ownership in that.
Right.
And you didn't even start it.
Correct.
And so I think a lot of times too, like I want to start promoting that also, as far as like, don't feel pressured to necessarily start quote unquote your own business or your own brand, which I do think people should at some point in their life.
Right.
But don't think that you have to do that, because you don't have to. You can get with a firm or company that is building, that you align visions and
Right.
similar goals and what you're trying to accomplish, and you help that company build and you get equity into it, and now you got ownership, you know, like Jay-Z said, you know, people want 100% of nothing when you can get 10% of something,
Right. Right.
you know?
Right.
Like what's 100% of nothing? Nothing. You got 10% of a company that sell for $10 billion. It's a whole lot of money.
It is. It is. And I'm glad you said that about having to create something. So, you know, we definitely have a system, structure, and strategy in place to help people, you know, become wealthy in this financial services business. You know, and being an entrepreneur definitely is a way to have long lasting financial freedom. Right now in our organization, there are multiple millionaires already in the business. And it's within our firm, and it hasn't even sold yet. We have a young lady in Chicago. Let's see, she may be 20 or 21 years old now. She's a 10% equity owner in the firm. You know, so I don't know, where where she's in college. So I still work full time, but I run my business. I guess say on the side. So my insurance business is actually starting to become a full time business for me. But you just have to know if you're ready. If you're ready just to jump out there on faith, do 100% of the time. If you don't have a lot going on, some people are very successful at doing it because they're being consistent. They're being dedicated. And as an entrepreneur, you know, if you don't work, you don't get paid. So we do have, we offer amazing mentorship. We have some amazing people in our organization that have come from many other organizations, and we work together in our organization. We have teams. You know, I have a team, but I know I have other leaders in the organization that will work with my team and train them for me because I travel a lot with my job. I got friends all over the country that will work with my team at any given time. All they do is call them up to even talking to the CEO of our organization. I can call him up. I can call the president of the organization if I need some advice. And they've been in the business for a long time. Our CEO and founder of our organization talks to the people in DC when it comes to insurance. He's getting ready to talk here soon in the Philippines. He's going to talk to the Philippines Insurance Commission because we're moving to the Philippines. And so he's known all over the world. So we have a strong foundation at FinFit Life. And so I just want to be able to share the opportunity with other individuals, especially young men and women that may not want to work with somebody, but they want to work for themselves. This is an amazing way to work, to be able to work for yourself and make a lot of money doing it.
Absolutely. And like you said, he's working a full-time job and still has his business, so it's possible to do. And again, if there's somebody out there, I feel like that wants to get into entrepreneurship, wants to own a business, but don't really know where to go or what to do yet. One, I would definitely say get a mentor to help guide. I do mentorship as well. But if it's not me, like somebody that can help guide you, but also look into companies and organizations that provide opportunities like getting equity or revenue share, things that reward you beyond just a hourly pay, in what you're doing. And so, yeah, I would advise people to do that.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Which even you just saying that too, I kind of want to talk about, Trailblazers a little bit.
Okay.
And how we partnered together. I remember, I had been working on Trailblazers for some time, and we went out to eat to Kitchen and Cocktails, and I like broke pretty much everything down with you on how my vision for Trailblazers. And I felt like what you're doing with your company, I felt like you were going to be a great partner for our organization. Because part of the purpose is to make sure that, like, not to just educate people and give people, and it's to give people resources, give people tools and things that they can actually execute on, and to make sure everybody's foundation is secure. Because if all of our members and people are part of our community foundations is secure, then we can do a lot more together. And so you were the first person to actually invest into a partnership with Trailblazers. And I really appreciate that because a lot of people, parents or friends or whatever may be like that, you know, may not invest into their ideas or put money towards it. And you did it. You said from that meeting, us sitting at lunch, you said, I'm gonna do it. How much is it? You paid it. And even at that time, I wasn't fully ready to launch yet. Time went by. You still was, you didn't complain. You didn't come to me like, you were like, I'm telling you like, Dad, I'm working on it. We're going to get ready to lunch. We're going to get ready to lunch. I put some dates back. You still was like, okay, cool. Like, and now we finally launched.
Right.
And so to me, that's very valuable because I to have somebody just believe in you and believe in your vision, and not just do it, but also put money towards your vision is a true sign of like somebody being really behind you. So I appreciate you for that on behalf of just our whole board as well.
You're welcome.
Because things like that could have even delayed us launching further, you know, with the Trailblazers Mastermind Club. And for those who don't know who Trailblazers Mastermind Club is, we're an organization, private club, that we're an ecosystem. And our mission is to empower professionals, entrepreneurs, and investors with tools, resources, connections, and experiences to help everybody in their professional and personal journey. And what we're all about here is truly group economics at its core. But not just with everybody, but with like-minded individuals. Because again, going back to kind of what you said earlier, like we have to align. And I've been in a point in my life where I've tried to help so many different people out, and they just didn't execute, or like they would rather stay in the streets, or they would rather continue to do the same old things that everybody else is doing, you know? And so I think that was a lesson in my life that I had to learn, where it got to the point where I kind of got discouraged in a way too of, dang, like I don't want to help nobody no more. You know what I mean? Like I just need to focus on me.
Yeah.
And so, but I realized like, no, that's not the right attitude. You just got to find your tribe. You know, you got to find the people that are aligned with you. And it's not going to be the masses. It's going to be those few people, right, that align with your morals, your principles, your values, right? And the biggest thing that we lead on with Trailblazers is service. It's the number one thing. And that's how this whole vision came about. Was one, it was a vision from God, and it was literally about service. It was about community. And if you look at any type of big organizations in the world that are movements, lead with service, have leadership, have group economics at its core, and everybody's able to exchange value and resources within each other. So yeah, I just wanted to appreciate, you know, you for that, and also kind of get what was your why too behind even doing a partnership with Trailblazers.
Well, before I jump in that, I want to talk about, you know, you've always had the ability to bring people together. You've always been a motivator. I remember while in junior high school, you were started out to be an entrepreneur in junior high school, but your attitude has always been excellent. And attitude as an entrepreneur, which you have been since junior high school, is the biggest game changer in being an entrepreneur, because you've had setbacks, you've had failure, you've had people do this, you've had people do that, but it's how you've always been resilient and you've always bounced back. So for anyone that's out there that's listening thinking about becoming an entrepreneur or is an entrepreneur and thinking about giving up, one thing I can say about my son is he's never given up. And he is always, persevered and pushed forward. And if it wasn't right, like he said, he's been looking at lunch and Trailblazers for some years. He stepped back. I have no problem with that. Even when he was in college, he called me one day. He's like, "Dad, I'm gonna be in college another year." I'm like, "Okay, what happened?" Because he changed his major up. He switched his major up, so he stayed in school another year because he knew he wanted to be an entrepreneur. He didn't want to work for anybody for the rest of his life. So I'm like, okay, cool. So my why is because one, as a father and as a black man, a black father, and having a young black man that I know wants to do well in life, um, I didn't have to think about it because I know the type of man that you are and the type of man that you will become, and you've never given your mom any issues, any problems. You never, done anything out the way for me not to want to help. And so my why is because I wanted to invest in you, so that you can be successful. So when you said, "Hey, Dad, I need X, Y, Z," and it's like, okay, what I say, how do I send it? So I just want to make sure that, you know, I mean that me investing in you, that's part of my legacy. You part of my legacy. You have my name, so that's my why. I just want to see you be successful, and I want to see you continue helping others. Um, but we can't have everybody. Many of y'all know, you remember MC Hammer tried to bring everybody from the hood, and it just didn't work out. But I know you strategically bring people aboard that's going to, one, help you get to where you want to be, or you helping them get to where they want to be, and ultimately get you where you want to be.
Right. That part.
Yeah.
All right. So we're gonna go into a game real quick. This game is called One Word,
Okay.
One Lesson.
All right.
So basically, I'm gonna say a word, and then I need to get you to give me one lesson from that word.
Okay.
Okay. So the first one is fatherhood.
Um, treat your kids with respect.
Okay. Sacrifice.
Do whatever you need to do to make sure that your kids have what they need.
Mm. Protection.
Always shield your kids, your family from all harm.
Mm. Legacy.
Wow, legacy. It's so many words. Legacy.
Hmm.
Um,
You got
put God first.
okay. The next one was actually God.
Yeah, because ultimately, if without God, then there's really no legacy.
Mm,
If you're not living right, then there's really, well, there could be a legacy. There's one or two types of legacy. There's either bad legacy or a good legacy.
right.
Because in life, we've had wars. We've had Vietnam and a lot of different things. What legacy do we leave there? What legacy we leave there? But I always put God first, and your legacy is going to be great.
Absolutely. Put God first, y'all. All right. So, what's something that I've done that made you proud that I may not know of?
Wow. One of the biggest things is because I hear you mentioned earlier that that you haven't had it, any alcohol in 6 months. Because what happens, and I'm glad because what happens is when there are people in the family that have other, because alcoholism runs in a lot of families, and it I would say it runs deep in our family. But one thing that I know I didn't get my drinking from was from my parents, because they didn't sit around and drink a lot, but it skipped some generations. But I'm just glad that you decided, hey, I'm going to stop drinking, and so I'm really really definitely proud of you for that. But just overall, just the man that you have become, you have not let me down, not one bit. I mean, your mother, every now and then she calls and we talk about you. She just proud of you. Sometimes you might get ahead of yourself, but you always really back.
Sure. What's something that you wish we talked more about as father and son?
Hmm. Question. It's overall life because when you were growing up, when you and Kamaya, your sister was growing up, I was in my 20s, and during that time was a lot of the time when I would be drinking. It's honestly, I just wish I spent more quality time with you and Kamaya. Just talk about just this life, just things that I had learned from my grandfather or great grandfather. I spent a lot of time like your grandparents. They live down in Louisiana. They're down in the country. Like my great grandparents, they live down in the country. Just I learned a lot of wisdom from them that I wish I would have instilled early on.
This is super random because we never talked about this, but so you had me at 24. You were 24, I think so, and my mom was 32.
No.
What was it? 23.
Oh
My
yeah,
mom was
yeah, yeah,
31. I
yeah, yeah. Your mom was, yeah. She's 9 years older than me, or 8 years, somewhere in there.
think it's 8.
Yeah, 8 years older than me. Yeah.
So, all right. So, mind you, I'm my mom's only child. Okay. So yeah. So you were 24, she's 32, or
Yeah,
you?
something like that.
Well, I think you were may have been 23, and she was 31, and then she turned 32.
Something like that.
Yeah. Yeah. So, um, first of all, it's just a different dynamic because my mom is just like I don't know how she was back in the day, during those times, but she's very strong willed.
Mm-hmm.
She's very, you know, she's a fire sign. She's like me, we both Sagittarius. And she's not like a pushover type of woman. So I was just thinking when I'm like, y'all were 8 years apart. Like you were in your early 20s, she was in her early 30s. Like I couldn't imagine myself being 23, you know, marrying a 31-year-old, having a baby. Like I just that age from because I feel like women mature faster than men.
They do. Most
Most of the times.
Mhm.
Men, especially like I feel like men, we start really becoming a man per se, like 28, 30
Yeah.
is when like stuff really started to shift. Um, and so I remember, just growing up, riding in the car with you, you always listen to old school music. And it'd be funny, we'll be in the car and I try to change the station to a hip hop station. You'll let a song ride out, then you'll change it back.
Yeah.
It's funny because I don't think you ever told me stop changing the radio station, but we just never talked about that, but you would do it.
Right.
But I feel like you have an old soul, and I think that transferred into me
Right.
and having an old soul because I also have a lot of older male friends.
Right.
And even just today, like this morning, I woke up, I'm listening to the Ozzy Brothers, like most people ain't playing the Ozzy Brothers. I need a Baker on, like most people my age group, they probably, look at me like, that's what you listening to, Don't get it twisted. I know people my age group, they might like the Ozzy Brothers, but waking up
Yeah.
listening to it is probably different. What was that dynamic like? Like
Hmm.
were you will you feel like you were more mature at a younger age? Because I'm just curious, like again, just me knowing my mama,
Yeah.
how did that happen?
Well, so I believe I was mature at that age because I had always hung out with older people, and I always dated older women. Well, yeah, I started dating older women, like around 21 years of age. Um, but yeah, I'd always hung out with older people because when I was 15 years old, I was hanging out with my best friend Keith. He was a couple years older than me, but then there was my friend Ron, who was like, I'm 50. Ron is 8 years older than me, and so I was always hanging out with older people. Even when I was growing up in Lancaster, Texas, Guy next door, his name was Eric Davis. We played basketball together. I was sixth, seventh grade. He was in high school. And I remember my granddaddy saying, you don't need to be hanging out with older people. You hang out with people your age. But all my cousins hung out with were always older than me. And then I spent a lot of time down in the country, with great grandfather. Shoot, he'd get up in the morning. I hear that truck crank up. I'm up and I'm running to town with him, hanging out with him all day, just hanging out with older people. And story. Your mom and I, we both worked for Dallas County Sheriff's Department. And I saw her. She worked at a different jail, and I saw her. I was like, if I ever see her out, get the courage to talk to her. So she was out one night at the club, and we there it went. And we just started, we started hanging out, dating, whatever, and next thing I know, we were, I think I moved in with your mom in less than a year, and there it went from there.
That's crazy. Yeah, I just always wondered that.
Yeah.
It's kind of interesting just how things happen, and I think I'm similar too, because although like I'm your firstborn and I'm the oldest, obviously that means I'm the oldest of my other siblings. All my other cousins on my mom's side, because we got a big family on my mom's side, they were all older than me.
Right.
So I think in a way too, that made me more. It helped me be a little bit more mature, just hanging out with older people.
Right.
And again, I feel like you passed that old soul energy over to me as well. But yeah, that's cool.
Jaden the same way.
Jaden is the same way.
Yeah.
He's old soul too.
Yeah.
Just songs he listened to, and I'll be like,
Al Green, Earth, Wind and Fire.
I'm like, man, you listening to Al Green, Earth, Wind and Fire? You 13 years old? Like,
Yeah.
He is the same way. So if you had one principle to pass on to grandkids, what would it be?
One principle to pass on to grandkids. Wow. Always treat your elders with respect.
I like that. I like that a lot, because I feel like in a way it's kind of becoming like a loss. Like that rule is kind of becoming lost.
Mm-hmm.
I'm seeing, younger generation, Gen Z. I'm a millennial. I'm seeing a lot of younger people just not respect older people, and I didn't grow up that way. And I for sure, like y'all, you, my mom, family, like that was just like a common thing to know to respect older people, and
Right.
and to, if they ask you for something to do something, like you just do it, But I feel like now young people look at old people as like washed. Like this, like that's kind of how I feel like their energy and their vibe is. And I personally feel like it's like this. There was a story in the Bible, and it was talking about a young man and an older man,
Mm-hmm.
and can't remember the exact specific names of these individuals, but the old man had a lot of experience, but in wisdom. But at this point in time in his life, he had no vision into like necessarily where to go. And the younger person was like creative and had vision and had these ideas and things that he wanted to accomplish, but he had no wisdom. He didn't have any knowledge and things of how to execute. And that story brought those individuals together and showed the importance of having somebody with wisdom and knowledge in your life, and the other person, and also for that person too, in being able to pour into somebody that got vision and ideas.
Right.
I think that relationship really works, because for, let's say, an older person that has that knowledge and that wisdom, they may not have ideas of things that they want to do in life.
Right.
But if they find a younger person and that has those ideas, it kind of energizes them up
Right.
to want to do things,
Exactly.
because they're like, okay, if I pour this into this young person, they're going to go out and execute on this, and that gives me more energy. And then the younger person now gets that knowledge of how to execute whatever the ideas of their vision are. So
Right. Right.
I really like that you say that is, respect, older people, and also just value relationships with
Yes.
older people.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's you know so so yeah so my grandmother she's passed on. My grandfather's both passed on. But I've had the opportunity to know my great grandmother and great grandfather. So that's why. Well, I guess I found it interesting. I always hung out with older people because they always had a lot to say. They had a lot of wisdom to pour into you because I spent a lot of time down in the country, and I did have a couple cousins down there that I hung out with, but we were always around my great grandfather, great grandmother, great aunts and uncles, and things of that. So just listening to the old stories and things how it used to be that always intrigued me. Um, but I believe that today, in today's society, a lot of younger people do not respect older people, because there are I'm gonna say most, a lot of the parents are having kids real young, and their parents were young too. Like when my mom had me, she was 18, 19. She had me young, but she had my great grandparents and great aunts and uncles and my grandmother's people to help guide her to help me. And she had a lady that was in her life. Her name was Mrs. Graves. I remember she talked about her all the time because if there was some other stuff going on. But we yesterday I had went over off of Mockingbird. I was charging my car, and it was these two little boys standing outside, I guess their mom's car, and it was some other person out there that was probably looked to be in their 20s. These boys looked to be 9, 10, 11 years old, but they were cussing up a storm. I'm sitting in my window down. He turned around and looked at me like, what? And he was cussing and saying a bunch of stuff, and the lady sitting in the car wasn't saying nothing. I'm like, okay, are these your kids or what? Even if they're not your kids, you're an adult.
Right.
They shouldn't be cursing in front of you. One thing I can say about a lot of the people in your life, I remember one time I met you. You wanted me to come sit in on something, and I think it was over by SMU one time, and Dion Jr. was there, and there was some more people. Y'all were having a discussion, and somebody cursed and said something, and Dion stepped right in and said, "Hey man, you see Mr. Arter sitting here?" And shut the whole room down, and made it, and basically a couple people apologized. I remember that because I know how Dion was raised, very respectful, but you always put yourself in the room with those types of people.
Yeah.
And again, you wasn't raised like that. Another problem that I see today is when we were growing up, when adults were talking about something, the kids had to leave the room. We had to go outside, do something. Today, too many kids in grown folk business.
Mm.
That's a big issue. When you
Yeah.
sitting around having a discussion about even bills or anything, something's going on, that there's too many kids now in grown folk business.
Yeah.
And one reason I think is because there's too much electronic stuff going on, so they always in the house. They're not outside playing anymore. Like we used to be outside all day long
Yeah.
doing stuff. But
I was outside too.
yeah, when adults get to talking about something, what are you doing? You need to go outside, not another room, because you can be eavesdropping. You need to go
Right.
outside while we having grown folk conversation.
Right.
It's too much going on today. Too many kids are in grown folk conversation.
That's a fact. That was something I wanted to also kind of share with you too. On a point that you were talking about. It actually just slipped my mind, but I also wanted to say, from a relationship standpoint, one of the things that I always valued about speaking about kids and being in grown folks' business and stuff like that, it's just like parenthood. Um, I felt like you and my mom, although y'all got a divorce, separated, never got back together, the way that y'all raised me from a co-parenting standpoint was probably one of the best things and situations that I also value from both of y'all. Like, I never heard you say anything bad about my mom. I never heard my mom say anything bad about you. Um, I seen you guys in moments support each other and help each other, you know. And now, my stepdad, my mom, knows my stepmom and all these type of things, and I felt like we have a true like relationship, a family bond. And I think a lot of times now in this day and age, I'm seeing a lot of situations where um, women and men, when they have kids, especially when they're not married, it's very dysfunctional,
Yeah.
you know? And I feel like a lot of times kids or parents are using their kids as pawns in a way, to hurt each other or to get at each other or to do these type of things. And that's just not healthy.
Not.
And, honestly, the foundation of parenthood and a family is so important in a kid's life. And I didn't realize that until I became an adult. And when I look back at some of my friends that I grew up with who wasn't necessarily blessed, some of them didn't have their parents in their life.
Right.
I had a friend, his mom was on crack and his uncle took him in. Had another friend, their mom was on drugs and they stayed with their grandmother and they were on welfare. And then I had another friend who didn't know his father. These are all best friends, by the way. We all know each other. Didn't have his father, grew up with his mom. Then I had another friend who dad got killed at an early age and his mom was struggling. And I remember another friend who did have a mom and he had a stepdad, but their mom just let them do whatever. Like they let them curse in front of them,
Right.
and they also spoiled them. They had every pair of new shoes that came out, and I seen their life, those particular everybody I just named life ended up differently, but like even the last person that I just named, like I mean, I don't know. He may have 10 plus kids now, from a distance. I haven't talked to him in a while, but I've seen him going in and out of jail.
Right.
And so I look back at that and I just, even to even just be transparent, man, we're being real, we're being raw on some things here right now. I never said this before. I'm actually more comfortable saying it with my dad though. I remember high school, one time, everybody was our friends were going through some, I don't know what happened, but my mom and my friends' parents got together and they called a family a meeting.
Right.
And it was with my closest friends and their parents. I don't know if you knew about this or not. And it was at my house, my mom's house. And long story short, my friend group was messing up, like not skipping class. And I was never the type of person to skip class. I think I only skipped class like senior skip day, whatever, never skipped school, never sold drugs. And I had friends that was doing that while we were in school. I remember people smoking weed in the 7th grade.
Yeah.
I didn't my first time, smoking was my senior year of high school. But even then, like it was already happening in my life around me. I already seen it.
Right.
Drugs, pills, like all of that. And so, anyways, I remember one of the conversations, parents was in the living room, kids we there, and they went down a list of questions, just asking people stuff, ask questions, da da da. And so it came out to like smoking. It was like, well, are y'all smoking? And some of them had to tell the truth because they was coming in the house, smelling like weed, and also in a way, some of their parents not all were okay with it in a way. I don't want to say that they were okay with it like they wanted
Right.
to, but it was like I didn't see them getting disciplined for it. You get what I'm saying? And when it came to me, and it was like, you smoking like, and at the time I wasn't just like smoking. I had smoked before, so I said no. I was like, now my friends are mad at me. They were like, after the fact, they were like, we all said yeah, you said no,
Yeah.
and I was like, listen, man, my mama different.
Yeah.
I'm like, my mama different, and I also had some type of fear in letting y'all down, and to me that was also part of good parenting. Now looking back, because if you fear letting your parents down and you fear certain things, like my mom, she worked nights
Mhm.
while I was in high school. I had a car my freshman year of high school. My Within that, she worked nights. I never let a girl stay in my house. A girl may have came over one time, and that was in a group setting, with friends. I was that scared to do something, and my mom was gonna find out, or you was gonna find out. And even just with letting people over, I'll tell them like, hey, like y'all gotta be quiet. Like, y'all can't be in here being
Right.
all rowdy and stuff. But
Right.
I go to my
Right.
other friend's house and we can be as rowdy and loud as we want to.
Right. Right.
But again, I'm kind of just reflecting on those past moments, because now I look at my life and I don't want to say compare, but kind of see people's journeys. It's almost, it only makes sense to why I'm the way that I am, and that's from how I was raised. And not even just from you being my dad or my mom being my mom, but my aunties, my uncles, my grandmothers, my grandfathers, like that whole village and how we raise each other. So that is something that, speaking to millennials, Gen Zs, you know, we need to get back to the point, if you are or in a situation where you are not with your child's father or your child's mother, and creating a healthy co-parenting relationship,
Hmm.
and bringing that family together,
Right. Right.
and not using each other's kids as pawns.
Yeah, that happens so many times. I've definitely seen it, and it's still happening today. And a lot of times, what's happened over the last 20, 30 years is a lot of parents are being their kids' friends instead of being their parents.
Mm.
And so that's how it ends. A lot of times it ends up like that. But then you mentioned situations where some of the parents were on drugs, or addictions, or in and out of jail, or dead, or what have you. And then that's when that village does need to happen, because I remember me and my cousin Shanita, we walked off from the house. We had to be every bit of 12, 13, 11, 12, somewhere in there, down in the country. We walked wait down this long road to Miss Florence's house. And Miss Florence had this peach cobbler she had just made. So we down there all day. It got dark. No one knew who we were. And so we got four whoopings that night. We walking up the road back home. Everybody out looking for us. Mr. whatever his name was, he got a hold of me, and then I think his wife got a hold of Shanita, and we walking up. I get up to Aunt May house. Aunt May, Uncle Rex, both got us, and walk back down here. Aunt Lily Bell and Uncle so and so. So it was a village. Hey, that's what it truly was about back then. And I do there's still a lot of family dynamics like that today, but it's not always like that in the city. It's like you find that a lot of times and going, living in the country.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times today, a lot of the parents are young and they don't want nobody else disciplining their kids. They took out corporal punishment out of schools. You can't get paddled at school, and then nowadays if you say something bad to somebody's kid, then the mama's up at the school cussing the teacher out, cussing the principal out. It's crazy.
Yeah.
We just need to get back to get back to the basics like it used to be.
Mm-hmm.
But I also think a lot of things changed when Dr. King got killed. A lot of things changed when I think around the 80s time frame when I'm trying to think what they call it, but yeah, things just start changing. And it's sad. But as we see what's going on right now in the world, and especially in the United States, we need to, as people, as community, we need to get back to where we were because we're going to need, we still got some more years to deal with what we got going on right now. We're gonna need each other more so in the next coming years than we've never needed each other before. So we all need to get back to that same, have that family dynamics. And whenever there's a situation going on, there's some disagreement, arguments, or whatever, just squash that because family is important. It's, I know people that they ain't spoke to their mama or their daddy in a long time because they mad. They ain't spoke to their siblings because they mad about something. Man, just squash that and move on. So it's not that it's, get beyond that.
Right.
And love on one another. We need to love each other more.
Absolutely. Absolutely. What's the best advice you ever received?
Oh, best advice I've ever received. Uh, I want to say it has to. I had a lot of good advice. Um, Consistency comes to mind.
Consistency.
Consistency comes to mind, especially being an entrepreneur, being in business for myself. And you can have dreams and goals and all that, but if you're not being consistent, then you're not gonna meet any of that.
Yeah.
You can jump around from relationship to company to this, that, and whatever, but if you're not being consistent, then what's, why do it? Why jump? If you're being consistent in a relationship or a business opportunity or whatever, you're going to be successful.
Yeah. It's like inevitable.
Yes.
It's like taking it back to the basic. Like if you're practicing karate, there's two types of people. There's one person who does 50 kicks in one day. Then there's the other person that does one kick a day for a year. Which one is gonna be better?
50 kick.
The 50 kicks? So
Okay, say that again.
So one person does 50 kicks in one day for a year.
Right.
So they had 50 kicks for the whole year. But he did it in one day.
Oh, for the whole year.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I missed that part. Okay.
My bad. They had 50 kicks in one day for a whole year. The other one does one kick a day for a whole year.
Yeah.
Which person is going to be better?
Yeah.
One kick a day.
Mm-hmm.
So going back to the consistency piece, it's like even if you just do the small little efforts, but you're consistent with those small efforts, over time you're going to, one, make progress, two, get more comfortable in what you're doing, because a lot of times why people aren't consistent is because you're uncomfortable. And when you're uncomfortable with things, that's when we tend to want to go away from it. And I want to talk about this too, because it's like it's a human thing. Like it's just how we kind of built. Like our brains is built on making sure that we're comfortable.
Right.
It's not built on like, hey, make us uncomfortable.
Yeah.
But growth comes from discomfort.
That's true.
Growth comes from obstacles. Growth comes from lessons, right?
Yep.
Even as simple as going to the gym. You work out, you get a workout in and you sore. What does that mean? That means that your muscles just broke down. But what happens is it's breaking down to build right back up even stronger.
Right.
So consistency is going to make you uncomfortable in the beginning. Being consistent at something that you're doing, but that's actually a good thing. And we got to lean more into that.
Right.
So that eventually it'll become like second hand. It'll become normal. It'll become more comfortable. It'll become second nature. So I like that.
Yep.
What's one thing you pray your children always carry with them?
One thing I pray that my children always carry with them is having faith.
Hmm.
Mustard seed faith.
Mustard seed faith. If you know what a mustard seed look like, it's like super small. But Lord say, what he say? Faith of a mustard seed. I don't know the scripture. But if you have the faith of a mustard seed, it'll take you a long way though.
Absolutely.
And just faith in general. I think faith also is like faith is really believing and executing on something, that a vision that came to you without seeing the immediate results of it, or continue to do it even in a feeling where you're feeling like, man, I'm doing this but it's not working. You still got to have faith.
Must have.
And that's a big key. That's I got you on that. I always carry that with me, is faith.
If you can drive down the highway, drive over the high five bridge, and without thinking about it, your faith is that bridge ain't gonna fall. So why not have faith that if you're putting your all into a business or something, or in a relationship, that it's not gonna succeed?
Same thing. To have faith.
Yep.
Lastly, what does lessons and blessings mean to you?
Lessons and blessings. Wow. So lessons to me are, things that have, lessons, the things that I have learned in life, and how I have overcome those lessons. Actually, they have helped me set up a foundation to live off of. And, I've gone through a lot in my life. My 54 years have been through a lot. And God continues, as long as I am faithful with little, he will grant me much. God continues blessing me each and every day. I have my health. I might not be as wealthy as I want to be, but the blessings come in seeing you and my other kids, be successful, healthy, happy. That's one of my biggest blessings is that I help bring all four of you all in this world. And a blessing for me is to be able to not want alcohol anymore. God just totally took that away from me.
I love that. Guys, if you're out there right now, you're watching this show and you want some support, help, community, go to trailblazersmastermindclub.com, check in with us, learn more information about our organization. You need help with setting up a legacy for your family, and need more information on life and health insurances. Even if you're not looking to necessarily get a policy right now, but you just want to have a conversation, connect with my dad here. Connect with him, connect with me. We got some information in the description for you guys to check out. But Dad, it's been a really great pleasure to sit down and have this conversation with you.
Absolutely.
Especially for this to be the first launch of the show, starting off with you, is a blessing in itself. And so here we are, signing out. It's your boy Flex, Corey Artist the First, and we out. Blessings and blessings.